All right, so today is January 19th. I just figured it's been a long time since I've just sat down, talked about some nerd stuff. Also, practicing cutting in different edits. So you'll notice there will actually be breaks because instead of trying to do this all in one take, I'm going to think through what I want to say and re listen to different parts. And if I said something wrong, edit it in a bunch. So, this is the tweet I want to talk about. A lot of people are saying stuff like this. John Delarose, though, I think is the biggest person talking about it. Also, his tweet sort of started it. So that's why I wanted to start here. I didn't want to pick on random nobodies on Twitter. And so, but to be fair, before I tell you how dumb wrong I think this whole thing is, I want to give you a chance to, I'm going to link to his website in here so you can look at his stuff. Oh, hey, get 3 books. Maybe I'll get a starter library just because, you know, give his books a fair chance. If I've read anything by him, I don't remember it. Uh, you can go through, look for yourself, see if you like anything that he's doing. I do know he's also apparently going to maybe be getting into a fight with Games Workshop, probably because Games Workshop thinks this is a little too close to a Space Marine. That'll be up up to them to figure out. But that is John Delarose. Uh, give him a fair shake. Just because I think he's dumb wrong on this doesn't mean you have to agree with me. I'd like it if you agreed with me, but wouldn't everyone? Anyway, we'll move on to the actual discussion. So real quick, I'm practicing some editing here, and mainly just because I had when I was talking about the timeline, I was including in the Satanic Panic some of the build up to it, things like The Exorcist, stuff from the 60s and 70s, which technically, if you're talking the Satanic Panic, that's a very specific time frame from the late 80s, mid 80s to the early 90s. It's not what I consider it, which is the broader range of everything leading up to it and a lot of the fallout in the late 90s into the 2000s. So I'm going to just stick this in the middle here, practice some editing because I've never actually done editing in a video before, just to explain that, yes, I know if we want to use the exact term satanic panic as most people understand it, yes, it's that period from 80s to the 90s. When I think about it, though, I have a much more, you know, same reason like when I think of the Revolutionary War, I go all the way back to, well before first shots fired. So I was being a little broad using historical context when I should have been a little clearer than that. But I'm going to get to practice some editing to clarify that. Stick this in there. All right, great. To put this into perspective, I'm about 40 years old, so I missed what was probably the height of the Satanic Panic in the 70s and 80s. By the time I was old enough to be forming memories, this was on the downcline. We were getting into the 90s, where yeah, it was still bad, but it was not. It was not as bad as it had been in the 70s and 80s. A lot of people online are focusing on this first part. There was never a Satanic Panic. Fine, we should argue that we should disabuse people of this notion that there was never a satanic panic, because there was. Anyone involved in internet or nerd culture knows this. What I want to focus on is this second part here, but we'll get to that part. That part there I don't really have links for. Let's first establish there was a satanic panic. Everyone knows it. Even if you want to go find all of the footnotes here in the Wikipedia article to, review everything that they're citing to, you can, find the creation of ritual abuse, this journal article, these things. Uh, most people, even tangentially in the tabletop space, are 100% aware of dark dungeons, where they tell us that actual spells are being cast, and poor Blackleaf. Everyone has known someone who's a little upset about their character dying, but not for the same reason that Blackleaf here is. This is the Satanic Panic, right? This, Mazes and Monsters, which again, 1982. So again, the height of the Satanic Panic was before I was alive. I acknowledge this, that in the 90s, it was on the downslope. It was sort of going out of style. And by the 2000s, it was basically over as a major movement. It's the second part that is really important to talk about, because it's a problem I have with not just the gaming community, but pretty much every internet community has taken this word psyop and just applies it to everything. The Haktua girl, a psyop. Uh, the problem is that it's also getting applied to things where, maybe we should consider if we need to talk about something as being not as legitimate looking as it is. The misuse of the word psyop has taken things like I don't know, I'm trying to think, like the recent revelation that there may have been more to the JFK assassination than we had been led to believe. That's a psyop. Some random lady becoming popular due to social media and then promoting what is it, like a Bitcoin, a meme coin, after getting involved in business with a guy who is known for promoting meme coins. That's not a psyop. That is the natural life cycle of the internet's e-celebrity. So this is my problem, and I go over it here, so we'll sort of talk about it here. This shifting of responsibility is the exact thing that people like John Delarose or other internet opinion makers say they dislike about boomers, when boomers are like, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, or when I was your age, I was able to get a house on get a house on a single budget. This is the shifting of responsibility that they're talking about boomers doing, and maybe not JDA in particular, but this shift of responsibility is what this attempt to say that the Satanic Panic is as a media psyop. It removes all of the responsibility from people like the people who are doing the chick tracks, the people who were responding to mazes and monsters, the people who like the Mothers Against Dungeons and Dragons, like all of those groups, all of those individual religious leaders, individual political leaders, not just Tipper Gore, but everyone else who had these sort of reactions to these things. The people who thought J.K. Rowling's books were about actual witchcraft, the people who thought Pokemon was demonic. All of these people have personal, individualized responsibility for this nonsense that trying to push it off as some mainstream media psyop undermines. This would be like, we'll use this analogy. There was at a time a whole bunch of abuse in daycare centers, or so we thought, because a bunch of people were promoting the idea of repressed, hidden, lost memories. Turns out that actually wasn't true. That was psychologists gassing some people up. That wasn't a media psyop. That was a series of bad actors working sometimes in concert, sometimes individually, that created this thing, this set of false memories that ruined a lot of people's lives. Now, of course, that doesn't get rid of the fact that there are actual abusers out there that you would want to, address. But the analogy breaks there because there are no people playing D&D actually casting spells. No one has actually summoned a demon by playing D&D. This is where my analogy broke down, but let's barrel forward that by trying to shift this to because boomers fell for it, don't be like boomers, all of this is ignoring that there are a bunch of individual people who are responsible for the Satanic Panic. It wasn't a media psyop to remove Christianity from the culture. I feel like that is my main issue with this, is that this both tries to have it both ways, right? There was never a Satanic Panic. But if there was, it was only bad people who did it who were trying to undermine what good people were doing. You can't have that. It's not logically cohesive. It doesn't hold together. And the other thing that it does is it makes any further argument you have in our shared nerd space requires a little more circumspection from us, because you fundamentally don't understand what we're looking at. It's like a young Earth creationist trying to argue about dinosaurs. It's like a flat earther trying to explain why boats don't just fall off the planet. You have given me a base level reality that is wrong, And every argument you make from this base level reality will be wrong. And therefore, I don't understand your initial argument because it's so far off reality. It's like ignoring gravity. Whenever you give me a math problem, you have to be like, but pretend like friction and wind resistance don't work because you're only in high school and that math's real hard. That's what this is. That's what this here is. This is pretend like the Satanic Panic never happened and that there was never any Christians who did anything to cause it because that math is hard for us to talk about real problems in our shared nerd culture. So that is the thrust. Legitimately maddening was a term I used. And what it's going to do is the churches and things that made these mistakes aren't going to be able to learn from them if you absolve them of their sins. So this conspiracy theory that some media entity out there went to all of the churches, all of the Jack Chicks of the world, all of the Mazes and Monsters movie reviewers, and whispered in their ear, blame Christians, is dumb. It is unhinged from reality, and we can't have that from anyone if we want to have serious discussions about where should nerds be in this world, what is our role, all of that. So that's it. That's my, I guess it's almost 10-minute rant on why John Delarose is wrong. But just because he's wrong doesn't mean he may not make good stuff. Go check out his stuff, see if you like it. But point is, he's wrong about this. He's dead wrong. He's more wrong than you could possibly have ever been. And it's just dumb to ignore reality because reality might make you uncomfortable.